Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to another Palavi Market Research video. Today, we're going to discuss the petrodollar and why it actually makes a lot of sense. Over the past 20 to 30 years or so, people have really grown pretty bigoted against carbon dioxide and fossil fuels. Not sure if you guys have noticed. And that's all despite the fact that it is extremely abundant and relatively inexpensive as a source of power. And one could very competently argue that no other single thing has supported more people coming out of poverty ever in history than from the energy created from oil and gas and the tools/equipment that it enabled. It is what allowed us to build our infrastructure and maintain it, our schools, hospitals, and most importantly, our modern sanitation systems as well. One could probably make a case that the spread and access to cheap energy via fossil fuels has supported more upward mobility than democracy. But with all that said, I want to frame this core argument I am making through an economic lens by first asking you all a very simple question. What do Bitcoin, gold, big tech, AI, real estate farming, big pharma, and many other industries all have in common? Well, they all heavily rely almost exclusively on oil and gas to power their operations. So, if we think in first principles, we will quickly notice that when you mine gold, you need gas. When you mine Bitcoin, you need gas. When you build or operate a building, you need gas. When you run a data center for a tech company, you need gas. When you run a GPU for an AI model or maybe soon a quantum computer, you need even more gas. I can go on, but I think you get the point. You can think of the American or even the global economy as a giant factory creating goods and services that are powered by these petrochemicals. And these individual products that spit out of it are simply a byproduct of this giant machine. Sure, you can own equity in one of these products like Nike shoes that your little brother buys or Ozempic for your fluffy stepmom, but the underlying asset that inevitably touches all of them are these fuel sources. So, if we want exposure to the global economy and how well it is performing in index terms similar to what the S&P 500 provides us, we can think about this sector very similarly. Hence why the dollar is often criticized for being a petrodollar. So let's back up a little bit. What the hell do people mean when they refer to the US dollar being a petrodollar? Well, what people are trying to describe when they use that term is the global trend that global powers who have tons of cash or liquidity sourced from selling oil are often investing those dollars back into the US economy, especially US treasuries. And this all started after agreements in the 1970s where nearly all oil producing countries agreed to price and trade oil exclusively in US dollars. This system effectively means that any country wanting to buy oil on the global market needed to do so through US dollars. Countries needed to hold reserves of dollars to buy oil, creating a continuous demand for US dollars as oil is simply an overwhelmingly critical resource like we were describing earlier. And because oil producing countries like Saudi Arabia receive US dollars from selling their oil, not their own currency, they accumulate huge dollar reserves. This is a big reason why we're able to export our inflation so effectively to these other countries. But that's another video. So what happens when a country accumulates lots and lots of dollars? Well, they recycle it by investing them by buying assets such as US treasuries, real estates, and stocks. So guys, when we went off the gold standard, we became a petrodollar, meaning after the dollar left the gold standard, this petrodollar system contributed massively to stabilizing the demand for the dollar. And honestly, this would have been totally okay. But we didn't create strict enough systems for mitigating money printing because this new monetary pseudo fiat system was kind of rushed into and just wasn't fully thought through. But it absolutely did work in terms of improving the American economy in relative terms, not necessarily objective terms. This is all the result of Henry Kissinger and his philosophy of realpolitik, which is a style of diplomacy or statecraft focused on pragmatic systems for accumulating power, prioritizing national interests and relations of power over abstract ideals like justice and democracy. Kissinger used oil as both a geopolitical weapon and an economic asset that could be used to influence global relations. Because Kissinger, as one of the founding fathers of both game theory and nuclear strategy, understood how to think in first principles and use that ability to set up America to be placed in its most optimized relative position on the global stage for generations to come. And I keep saying relative because when it comes to statecraft and foreign relations, power only exists in relative terms. Okay? That is today's video. Tomorrow we will continue this discussion, covering more in detail how Kissinger opened both China and the Middle East up for business in a way that was maximally beneficial to the United States. For better or worse, you can kind of think of him as like the Sith Lord of the American Empire, Emperor Palpatine. So, if hearing about that tomorrow interests you, you maybe subscribe and share with your friends. And hit that like button so soft, guys. Hit that like button so soft. Imagine you're having a picnic in a field with some affectionate, like Venezuelan women. You guys are sharing some fruit. You finish an apple and you take those seeds. You take those seeds, you get romantic as fuck with them, and you poke them into the ground as celebrating how great your day was with them. Hit that button, hit that like button just like that. And tell your friends to do the same, okay? Unless you don't like doing that. Doing things like sunbathing and eating fruit with feminine Latino women. Peace and victory, gentlemen. I will see you all tomorrow.